all, I'm Fun. In the previous tutorials, we have learned about exception handling. In this tutorial, I will explain about user-defined exceptions. So, if you are designing a project or if you are developing a project, situations may arise where you need to handle some type of exceptions. For example, if I'm writing a project that takes the user input, the details about users, and it has to take the age of the user, the username, and etc. So, if the user inputs a negative value for his age, so we need to make sure that the user does not input any negative values for his age. In situations where the user inputs negative value, we need to handle this error or the exceptions. I need to print user understandable or the user friendly error message on the screen. So I will be developing an application that takes the user information and makes use that the user does not enter any negative value for his age. So in order to develop an user defined or the programmer defined exception, we need to follow 6 guidelines. So I will be explaining one by one when we will be dealing with them. So the first one is we need to create a package that stores the user defined exception class. So I will create a package and I will name it as my exception. I will write a class that is the exception class, and as you know, all the data or the access specifiers in a package should be public. So I will use public class exception class, and this class, the user defined class or the user defined exception class, must extends either java.lang.exception or java.lang.runtime exception. So this class should either extend java.lang.exception or java.lang.runtime exception. So I will use only exception this time, and this class must have a predefined or user defined parameterized constructor. So I will define a parameterized constructor exception class, and the parameter for this class should be of string type, and this parameterized constructor should call the base class, that is the exception or the runtime exception class parameterized constructor, by giving the string type parameter, by passing the string type parameter. So these are the 5 guidelines, and the 6th one is we need to save the user defined exception class with the name that we specified over here. So that will be exception class.java. So these are the 6 guidelines that should be followed by a programmer when developing a user-defined exception classes. So now I'll run this file java c, and this should be a package compilation exception class dot java. So it has compiled successfully, and let us check the folder. So it has got the package and the class. So in order to develop a complete exception package or the complete project, we need to follow 3 phases. The first phase is the user must develop a exception class. So we have done that. This is the first phase, and the second phase is the user must develop a general class. So this general class consists of the code that check for the exception. So now I will develop the second phase. So since this phase is a general class, it is widely used by many of the users. So this must be placed in a package. So I'll name this package as using exception. You can name whatever you want, and this package will import the exception class that we have defined in the first phase. So this class will import my exception dot, and we need to keep this one as public. You can name whatever you want. We'll name as user class, and this class should have the logic that will check for the exception. So since I'm writing a project that will check for the user age, and if it is a valid age, it will process the information, or it will throw an exception saying that it's an invalid age. So I will write a method that will accept the age from the user, check age, and this will take integer as parameter, and this method will throws the exception class exception. So this is the exception that may be thrown by this method. Now in this method, I will check the age of the user. If the age of the user is less than 0, then I will create an object of exception class ex equal to new exception class, and I will pass a string saying that invalid age. So, and then I will throw this ex, the object of the exception class. So I will explain about the throw keyword in my next tutorial. So for this is the general class that we are defined. So basically what this class is doing is it is just checking for the exception. If the user input a negative value for his age, then it's going to compare over here, and if it is found that it is less than 0, then it will create an object of the exception class, and it will throw the object to the calling function. So it will throw the exception to the calling function. So let us save this file. And I will compile this file again. Java C-D, and this is also should be a package compilation. User class dot java. So it has compiled without any errors, and this this is the second phase in the project development, and the final phase is the user must develop a specific class which is used to take the input from the user. So this class is going to import the exception my exception dot exception subclass, and so this class should import the two packages, one of the exception class and the other one is the general class, general exception class. And in this class we need to check for we need to take the input from the user. So I will take the input from the user, and I will need a scanner class to take input. Scanner is equal to new scanner office system.in, and age equal to sc dot next int. And now I will create an object of the user class to check for the validation of this age. So user class obj equal to new user class, and then I will call the method check age of the user class by passing the age as parameter. And since this is a exception method, that is this method throws an exception. We need to put this one in try and catch blocks. So if there is no exception, that is if the user has entered correct input, then I will going to print his age. Else, or else I have to catch the exception, and then I have to print it. So let us save this file again, and I will name it as sorry, I haven't given any name, so I will name it as specific class. Now I'll go to the command prompt and compile it. So it has successfully compiled. Now I'll run the file. So it is asking me to enter my age, so I will enter. So this time it has successfully displayed my age. Now I'll compile the file again, and this time I will enter a negative value. So check this out, it is printing it as an exception and the type of exception, and printing the message as invalid age. So this is for the user defined exception. So just a brief about what we have done so far. To develop an user defined exception, we need to create a package, and this package must contain a public class that extends either a java.lang.exception or java.lang.runtime exception, and this class should have a parameterized constructor that takes string as parameter, and this constructor should call the base class parameterized constructor with parameter as the type of string, and this class should be named, or this class should be saved with the name of the exception class or the user defined name. So these are the 6 guidelines to develop an user defined exception, and then we need to check the logic of the exception, that is we need to check for the exception by defining another package. Since this class is going to be used by many number of users, so this class should be placed in a package, and this package should import the user defined exception class that we define in the first phase, So here I am importing the class, my exception class, and this class should check for the exception. So in my project I am taking the age as an input, and I'm checking the age. If this age is less than 0, I'm creating an object of the exception class, that is the user defined exception, and then I'm passing some string type parameter, and I'm throwing the exception. So I will explain this throw keyword in my next tutorial. For this tutorial, just remember this is important. So that's with the second phase of the user defined exception development. And while coming to the third phase, the user has to develop a specific class that takes the input from the user, and this class should import previously defined two classes, that is the exception class, this is the user defined exception class, and user defined general class. So the implementation class should import these two classes, and in this class the user has to create an object of the general class in here, and has to call the method to check for an exception. So in my project I'm checking the age, so I'm creating an object of user class, that is a general class, and I'm passing the age as a parameter to check age method. If my age is less than 0, then this method will throw an exception of class exception class. It will say as invalid age, and if it's greater than 0, then it's going to print my age. I hope you understand this tutorial. So in my next tutorial I will explain about throw and throws keyword. So you can find this code on my blog. Check for the link in description. So that's all for today, guys. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.